The twist of his mouth stayed etched in my mind, a smirk that whispered, "You don't belong." We were seated in a lavish private dining room at a country club far beyond my usual circles, where the wine list was deliberately vague, prices unlisted. My wife introduced him as Uncle Daniel, though he was only her mother's distant cousin. He moved with the effortless confidence of old money, the son of a bank tycoon, his pride tailored as finely as his suit. Reclining in his chair, he sipped his wine and casually asked about my schooling. "High school," I answered, keeping it brief. The pause that followed carried a heavy judgment. His eyes flicked toward his parents across the table, a faint grin sparking before a quiet, shared laugh slipped out, as if they'd silently agreed on my inadequacy. His mother remarked, "Not everyone's meant for higher learning." His father's chuckle came next, a low comment about some being unsuited for their refined world. My wife laughed along, not nervously or to ease the moment, but with a genuine mirth that cut deeply. In that instant, I felt a crack in our connection, a hidden truth she hadn't revealed. I didn't mention my achievements, the companies I'd raised from nothing, the patents I held, the wealth I'd amassed that would dwarf most graduates of elite institutions. Instead, I offered a polite smile, as if their approval held weight. Then Daniel asked which bank I used. "Yours," I replied, my expression steady. His smile was sharp, like a predator revealing its fangs. "Then you're in capable hands," he said smoothly. "Actually," I responded, my tone still courteous, "I'm thinking of closing my account." The table broke into soft laughter, and Daniel's father shook his head, brushing me off. "We handle clients worth hundreds of millions, my boy. Do you think your account makes a difference?" I gave a slight nod, the kind that hints you've already planned the conclusion. My wife's disloyalty wasn't limited to that night. It was simply the moment it came into focus. In the weeks that followed, I noticed her secretive late-night calls, cloaked in ambiguity. She said her evenings out were with friends, but she returned with the faint trace of another man's cologne. Not Daniel's, but someone's. When I pressed her, she called me suspicious. But my life had been built on reading people, spotting the subtle flaws they assumed were invisible. She hadn't accounted for that. So I watched. I waited. I didn't argue or accuse. Instead, I made my moves quietly. I reached out to my private banker. Not the one at their bank, but the one overseeing my offshore accounts. I directed him to begin liquidating assets, not hastily, but systematically, with each transfer routed through a complex web of shell companies I'd established under pseudonyms. Then I hired a forensic accountant, not to examine my own finances, but to unravel the operations of Daniel's father's bank. I needed to expose their weaknesses, the hidden debts they kept from regulators, the questionable transactions that wouldn't hold up under scrutiny. Within 3 months, I had a clear view of their vulnerabilities. Their bank wasn't the impregnable stronghold they thought. A single, significant withdrawal from a major account could trigger a liquidity scare, forcing them into chaos. I was that major account. I let the pressure build. The day I acted was an unremarkable Tuesday in late October, the sky gray and quiet, a day no one expects a storm. I walked into the bank's flagship branch, no warning, no appointment. From his office above, Daniel's father glanced down, saw me, then looked away. The manager approached with a patronizing tone, as if humoring an inconsequential client. I handed him the withdrawal forms. "All of it," I said. He read the amount. $7 billion. His face lost color, his voice faltering as he muttered, "Sir, that's not possible without." "Make it happen." I cut in, my tone calm but firm. Within moments, Daniel's father hurried into the lobby, his smile forced, trying to pass it off as a mix-up. "Let's talk privately," he suggested. "No," I said evenly. "This is fine." By then, staff and a few clients were watching. My voice remained soft, each word precise and cutting. "I warned you I'd close my account," I said. "You laughed." He stumbled over words, mentioning liquidity issues, timing, and temporary constraints. I signed the final papers without speaking. The transfers cleared in 28 minutes, redirected to accounts I'd set up in Zurich, Singapore, and the Cayman Islands. By the time he looked up from the paperwork, the funds were gone. The consequences came quickly. Within hours, whispers spread. The bank's stock began to dip and analysts spoke of shaking confidence. By morning, rivals circled like vultures. A week later, regulators opened an investigation. But the financial blow was only half the story. The personal strike landed at a charity gala 2 weeks later, held at the same country club with the same familiar crowd. This time, I arrived with a new companion, not my wife. She'd filed for divorce the day after the withdrawal, likely expecting to claim half my fortune. She didn't know most of my assets were protected, beyond her reach. I approached their table, Daniel, his parents, and the board members who'd once given me curt handshakes. Leaning in, I smiled. Heard about the liquidity trouble. Tough break. Daniel's father's hands trembled. His mother looked as if she'd swallowed something jagged. Daniel tried to speak, but no sound came. I straightened. Oh, and Zurich says hello, I added, walking away before they could reply. I never raised my voice, never made a threat, never bragged about what I'd done. The news headlines spoke for me. The divorce was settled quietly. I let her keep the house, a hollow prize for what she'd traded for a table of smug smiles. When asked if I regret it, I say no. I didn't destroy them out of spite. I simply showed them the cost of underestimating someone who takes you at your word. True vengeance isn't loud or messy. It's quiet, precise, and crushing. And when it's over, all that's left is the silence they once filled with their laughter.